All right, ladies and gentlemen, hello, and welcome. Welcome to the first trading day of the new month, or actually the last month of 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, we have passed through 11 beautiful months of trading, and we're now in a final jump, basically jumping into the last trading day of the month of December. Look, ladies and gentlemen, I hope the year has been so far a good one for you. The reason why I'm using so far is because we're still not finished with the year, right? Okay. Look, the little video that I wanted to do right now is just to kind of let you know in terms of what's happening with central banks, what's happening in December, basically which central banks are delivering their interest rates, so and how we can play the different asset class game here, and how it can affect the different asset classes. So look, before we go any further, as always, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimer. So, yes, the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation and should not be considered as such. This material should not be taken as an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. I'll give you a few seconds to read the rest. Yeah. Basically, the like I said, the oof, let me just double check something if everything is running smoothly here on my side. Okay, yeah. So yeah, like I said, we do have an eventful December, in my opinion. We have six major central banks delivering their interest rates. What a way to end the year. Look, also, just before we go any further, as always, just a quick mentioning of our Markets.com website, which you can always check out for more information about us. If you have any questions, reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to assist. So, now then, economic calendar, and straight away, this is the schedule, how it looks. So this is my little report that I do every month, and in here I've highlighted that we'll kick off the central bank extravaganza from the 9th of December, and we'll finish with the 19th. RBA will kick it off, BOJ will finish it off. So let's have a look. So the 9th, basically the 9th is a Tuesday, and yes, we can see here on the calendar RBA interest rate decision. Let's launch the chart here very quickly just to see what has been done so far, and we can see that from the beginning of this year we had three cuts so far by the RBA, right? And in a way, at the moment, from what I understand, we're not really expecting any. We're not really expecting any kind of major decision here, major movement, because at the moment I think the expectation is for the rate to remain the same at 3.6. So for now, like I said, the way AUD could react, well, certainly if there is no cut, then in a way, theoretically, we could see some positivity in AUD against its major counterparts, especially the US dollar, which right now, if you look at the chart, at this point, it is drifting lower. And as I discussed it in my morning webinar, the Markets Talk, I'm kind of leaning a little bit more towards the downside in a way, because again, I think I think now they're going to be focusing on, or trying to focus on, on US exports again, to make it more attractive. And you don't need a strong dollar for that. So that's where AUD USD could actually push back up. Now, the problem that I see here with AUD, although we're not really expecting any major cut from the RBA, but still the Australian dollar could, in a way, kind of suffer in a way, just purely because if the risk sentiment changes to a risk off, then that's kind of it. A currency like or a risk currency like AUD or NZD could kind of feel the heat on that. So that's where, like I said, that's where the problem arises, despite maybe the DXY kind of maybe moving to the downside. Let's say again, this is like one of those scenarios that could happen, right? And in the two where like both are the weak currencies, let's say AUD could be the weaker one still, if, like I said, if the market turns into a risk off one. For now, in the short run, up until the 9th, maybe we could still see some positivity in AUD, so keep that in mind. For example, jumping into AUD JPY, now this pair is going to be monitored very carefully, and as long as the risk on environment remains in the market, then we could still see AUD JPY pushing higher. We saw now probably I'm going to jump straight away into Bank of Japan, because again, I it's the last central bank that's going to deliver its interest rates from the top banks. So the reason why I'm jumping into this one straight away, because today we had a little speech from Governor Ueda, and he's kind of said that in a way the bank sees a path towards rate cuts, or sorry, rate hikes, because we know that in the past meeting they had to kind of postpone the whole hike. They wanted to do that, and let me just jump into the economic calendar, which is going to be on the 19th here. So they wanted to jump in. They wanted to jump into a hike, but in a way, given that we saw a new prime minister coming into power, and that prime minister is more in favor for cuts. They want to boost the economy. They want to look good in front of the electorate. That's understandable. So I think that they kind of made a little deal that, what, hey, BOJ, please don't hike yet. Give me a little bit of time. We can do that. You can do that in December. So most likely this is what's going to happen in December. Also, Ueda said that he's more kind of not or less worried about U.S. tariffs, because there were some agreements in place. So kind of they got the U.S. back, like off their backs, and that's why the position here, my position on AUD JPY, is that yes, although in this case it's more of a risk on, risk off monitor, where if suddenly the stock market reverses lower, I think if the stock market reverses lower, AUD JPY could drop lower as well. And although we have this potential hike from the BOJ, which could support the Japanese yen, I think that it would be like an additional thing that could actually strengthen the Japanese yen against its major counterparts, and no secret that is going to be against AUD as well, and we could see a big drop here to the downside. But again, we need a lot of ifs. So either if the stock market does reverse lower, and we also get the BOJ rate hike. Now, if the stock market does not reverse lower, if we do get the hike from the BOJ, we could see actually a somewhat of a temporary strengthening of the Japanese yen. We could see maybe AUD JPY dropping nicely lower, but then if the stock market remains elevated, I think that AUD JPY could reverse back to the upside. Now, in terms of other central banks, the 10th, the big announcement is coming on the 10th. Let me just go back into the calendar here. So not only that is going to be the where's that 10th? There we go. Not only there's going to be the BOC, the Bank of Canada interest rate decision, but of course we'll get the Fed, and for now, in regarding the BOC, the Bank of Canada, we're not expecting any action from them, and the rate most likely will stay at 2.25 unless it's going to be some sort of a surprise. So no major movement in the Canadian dollar. But then, of course, going into the evening, then we are getting the Federal Reserve interest rate decision, where the The bank is expected to cut by 25 basis points. So currently we have an expectation of 87%. Let me just refresh this, the CME Group Watch, Fed Watch tool. Yeah, 87% with a little bit. So yeah, we're expecting a cut. That's already kind of, I think it's a done deal. So if we do get a cut, I think that this is where we could see further weakness in DXY. So that's why I'm kind of leaning a little bit more towards the downside on DXY. And that's what I'm saying. So, pairs like AUD, USD could actually travel further north a little bit. So keep that in mind. Like I said, it is a done deal, most likely. Now, what everybody will try to understand is, are we going to get more cuts before Jerome Powell leaves? Because we know that next year in May he is leaving, and well, at the moment, I think that he's trying to kind of play it low and just trying to stick to kind of what the White House kind of sorry, not tell, advises, and I think he wants to just leave on good terms, and I think he's just gonna give them whatever they want, as long as it's kind of reasonable and doesn't really create too much suspicion. But again, that's my opinion, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments if you agree or not. But certainly, yes, it's a big deal. We could expect more weakness in the U.S. dollar, and it would be a really big surprise if we actually don't get that cut in December. But something tells me that it is, like I said, somewhat of a done deal. And going into pairs like USD CAD, for example, keep your eyes on that Wednesday, on the 10th of December, because there could be some interesting activity on the USD CAD side. The only thing is that if we do see that cut, I mean, in a way, that's kind of weakness of the U.S. dollar. But again, try to evaluate if we will see U.S. dollar kind of devaluing all the way up until the 10th of December, then maybe we'll have an opposite effect during the meeting and after the meeting, during the press conference, for example. Maybe the U.S. dollar could strengthen a little bit. So again, because it's like one of those, like, buy the rumor, sell the news, or in this case, sell the rumor, buy the news. And we could see maybe US dollar actually picking up strength, just because we already knew that the rate cut is happening. So just be careful in that front. With in terms of, like I said, Canadian dollar, well, I think that will be purely subject to what's happening in the oil market. So the Bank of Canada is not probably going to have any much influence there, unless they say something that they're willing to now consider rate hikes or something like that. Then we could see maybe Canadian dollar actually strengthening further. And probably the other two banks that are worth mentioning, and actually not probably, but let's mention those. On the 18th, we're gonna get the BOE and the ECB, ladies and gentlemen. So yes, BOE interest rate decision. We're currently expecting this one to. Let me just double check my other source here. I don't think that we're expecting anything from them, to be honest. Let me just double check. Unless they're gonna just go, because we had the budget, the UK budget, and maybe actually, yeah, sorry, the 25 basis point cut. We're expecting that one in December. So okay, if that happens, if they really go for that 25 basis point cut, of course, keep your eyes on the British pound, because that one so far is doing not bad, I would say. Okay, USD is on the weaker side, but still, GBP, looking at this one here, GBP JPY, for example. Okay, this is I blame UEDA here today, but overall we're still kind of climbing, right? GBP NZD, GBP AUD, it's still holding on despite maybe the stock market kind of pushing a little bit higher. And GBP CHF here is still kind of okay performance. Something shows willingness to fight. So, but again, if let's say if somehow the BOE says that they're still considering going further with rate cuts, although it's really difficult to justify why. maybe purely to stimulate the economy. However, you have a problem with inflation, so you cannot really, continue cutting if you have a, your inflation is like twice your target of 2%. So that's, like I said, that's the issue, and I think that, like I said, it will be interesting to see. We will probably get a cut, but then, what's going to be the wording, and how many MPC members are going to be like for in favor of the hike, in favor of maybe keep it staying unchanged, or maybe a cut. So I think these are the numbers which are going to be quite important. And the ECB, of course, the ECB. Look, we're not expecting any action from them. Their interest rate is already on the lower side. The inflation is still manageable, 2.10, the headline year on year. So in a way, um, you don't really need to do much. It's more of like, I think the press conference that's going to matter more like to just to kind of understand their further guidance going into 2026. So yeah, like I said, this is in terms of central banks, which are happening in December. Let's see how this is going to play out. I do expect some volatility. So yes, be careful when take everything with a pinch of salt. Not, I don't think that everything will be as straightforward as we like it to see, but certainly could be quite interesting. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, let me know, like I said, in the comments, what do you think? Do you agree or not? But hey, thank you very much for watching and listening. I hope you found it useful, and I shall see you next time in my next little video update. Bye for now.